Well, welcome back to the Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. It's Saturday, June 25th, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed of where we are and kind of how everything's working with the planer and some of the production I'm getting. And so I'm going to do a short video today, maybe show you a little bit more on the planing a little later, but just wanted to give you an update of what we got done. As you can see, that planer kicks out a lot of dust, and so we're in the process of cleaning it up. That's just, let's see, 2 days work right there. 2 days of sawdust going. I clean it up every 2 days. My daughter's cleaning it up. I'll show you what we're doing with the sawdust. But here's some of the material that we're actually planing out. This is all of the 12-foot stuff now has been planed out. Some of that stuff on the very top was some of the early, especially these boards here, were some of the early material that I had started cutting out. And so it's got a little bit of wane and stuff on it. But most of this stuff down below, very good, solid. You know, I'm cutting about 13/16 to 7/8 of an inch thick. You can see here I've started into the 2x4s. I'm trying to do enough 2x4s to do my outbuilding. Those come out nice and straight. I mean, they've got, every now and again I'll get one with a little bit of a bow, but for the most part the planer cleans those up nicely. And so I've got all of my 12s done and getting into the dimensional lumber. Here is, I've got this all kind of sealed up. But this is all of my 8-foot 2x4s are now done. So that's actually 2 piles. I'll show you the 2 piles where they were before. But this is all 8-foot material. There is approximately 300 2x4s right there. Those are all dimensioned to about 1 5/8, 1 11 right around there, by 8 feet. So about 300 2x4s. You can do the math at the price of 2x4s at roughly $5–6 a piece. You know, there's close to, with tax, close to $1,800, $2,000. This is all of my 8-foot and 6-foot boards. I've got those covered up. Those were what I was working on last week, so I've done all of my boards now. My 8-foot stuff is now complete. There's enough there pretty much to board in or seal in the outside of my outbuilding and probably do a good portion of the roof. And so what I'm going to use the 12-foot stuff for, and I've got more than enough there, that's to do the floor, the second floor of the outbuilding. I'll eventually put probably a 5/16 plywood over it and just nail it down to get a nice smooth finish, but even that's going to be cheaper than buying 3/4 inch stock. So that's, I mean, at 3/4 inch, this right there, there's roughly 10 lifts or 10 rows, 12 feet long. So that is about the same, you know, 13 to 15 sheets plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, which is running between $40 and $50 a sheet. So I got that all done. There's my daughter. She can say hi. She's doing my cleanup today. As I said, I've already switched the blades out on this. I've flipped them over after doing, especially all of those 2x4s, which are a lot of hardwood. They really took the, you know, kind of the keen edge off of my planer blades. And so when I first started, I did a few of the 12-foot boards, and then I switched, and the planer was working great now. So you could probably do the math. You know, you can do 2,000 to 3,000 board feet on a, you know, if you're being careful with your planer, but it does need to be changed. I'm going to experiment around here with, see if I can sharpen these, but we'll see. So here's a few more 2x4s up, sitting out ready to run through. I'm getting all of my stickers covered. I'm going to dip those when I go to dip my lumber as well, and so I'll have those all ready to put between my lumber as it's drying. It should only take a few days to do that, but I'll come back over here. The only thing that's left to plane is there's a little bit of 2x4s here that are the 9-foot stuff, and 9-foot 2x6, which are the first floor of the house. But as you can see here, my 12-foot stock is gone, my 8-foot 2x4s are gone, my 8-foot boards are gone, and I'll come over here, and then my 8-foot 2x4s are gone. So I've got rid of 4 lifts here already of stuff and running through my planer. Most everything else is the big dimensional lumber, like my 2x10 by 12 and my 2x10 by 16. I've got some more 2x10 by 14 back in there, and then I've got some 2x6 by 8 that needs to be run through, and I'll run those through probably next week. One of the other things is way over there I've got my boards, my 16 and 14 foot boards, which run through eventually as well. And so that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, the planer, well worth the investment at this point. What I can get out of it and do with it, it's just working great. As far as the planer shavings, I'll give you a quick update on what I'm doing with those. I think I showed you in an earlier video, but since I've been planing last week, of course I'm generating a lot of planer shavings, and so we're making our own sawdust trail around the property here, and my daughter is working away here as well. And I'll show you. We're up there probably well over 150 feet or more, and you know, it's not that hard, just obviously the further away you get, but we've probably got another 40-50 feet and we'll be at the property line. Then we're going to swing across the top of the ridge. But she's working away there, taking it up and dumping it and smooth it out with the rake. But you can see it makes a nice little trail. When it rains, that'll kind of pack down a bit, and hopefully that will work well. So I'm going to set up the planer and get going on some 2x4s. I'm actually using it for edging the 2x4s. I've already planed the thickness, and I think I may have shown you in an earlier video, I was on the 8-foot stuff, I was screwing them together 3 at a time and putting them through. When I get into the actual pine 2x4s, which were straighter and easier to work with, I didn't do that. I actually just started running through side by side, 3 or 4 at a time, individually, and it sped up the process a lot. And so that's what I'm going to do with these 2x4s here. I'm actually running them through just as they set, just roll them along right into the planer, and what it does, it takes that and smooths up and cleans up that top edge nicely. And I can also plane it to the dimension that I need, which is 3 3/4. And as you can see, this is what the finished product looks like. I showed you the upper side, but you know, kind of the flat surface. But these actually, flip one over here, you can see those plane up really nicely. You get a nice square edge. You have to be careful, they are sharp, those edges are sharp. I've thought about running maybe a router bit on that, just kind of rounding them over a bit. But I may do that eventually for the house. I'm just not sure. Just adds another step and a lot of work. So, but right now they're working nicely, and I have a nice square edge on them. And so I'll pick this video up a little bit later and finish it out, show you a little bit more of the planer in action and how it's working. But until then, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, it's a little later in the day on Saturday, so what I wanted to do was just to finish up this video. I've been working on the 2x8s that I'm going to be using on my floor. It's just a 14-foot wide, you know, outbuilding, so I'm not overly concerned about going up to 2x10, but I'll show you what I have here. I've now got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 or 17. The 2x8 are already done, and you can see how they're turning out. Now some of these, like I said, I knew that they were going to be on the outbuilding, so they've got a little bit of wane to them. But you can see, come down in here close, they're really nice and smooth. The only thing that I'm going to have to do is I haven't set the width of them yet, and so I guess that's the finished carpenter in me. I think what I'll do is when I get ready to set up to build, I'll set up my table saw and just run them through at like 7.5 or whatever, because right now they're ranging anywhere from 7 3/4 to 7 5/8. Somewhere in that area. Now I know that's not too bad for an outbuilding, but I would rather just run them through and be done with it. And so just takes a few minutes, and I'll set up and do that when the time comes. Until then, I thought maybe you'd like to see one going through, kind of from start to finish. It takes just a few minutes to run one. And so we've got one all set up. Now it's going to be a little noisy, so I'm going to put my ear protection on. Just give me a second. I'll go get her started. All right. Okay, that's the first pass. Now I'm going to take this down another 2/3 of a crank. Okay, I'll take this down another 2/3 of a crank. That's going to be good. Pass number 3. I'm going to go the other side one more time. This one doesn't need much, so I'm just going to take it half a turn. Just trying to get rid of this stuff. That type of stuff there. Really good, really well. Alright, so now we have the flats all done. Just got one more thing to do. I want to just clean up these upper edges a bit. So I'll show you how I do that. Okay, it's nice and noisy. Now, as you can see, this here kind of cleans up any of the, the weathering and any of the mold and stuff off it. And so what you get is a nice clean piece of lumber. Now again, I know that this here will have to be run through for overall thickness, or width, because this one runs, because of the way that the Woodland Mills cuts the lumber, you could be out 1/16 of an inch or whatnot, which is not a lot in framing lumber. But you can see here, this is running about 7 5/8. That's been average 7 5/8. Down here I'm at about 7 1/2. So when you run those through, this one is 7 5/8. So by running that through the table saw, you're going to be able to get a nice even piece of work. All I do is I just swing this on my, so I don't have to do too much lifting. Just swing it on my stand here. And half the weight's on the pile. And I'm going to be ready for dipping hopefully next week sometime, and I'll re-sticker it. So yeah, that's how that operation works. And like I said, you look down across that, it's nice and level all the way through. The rollers have been working really nicely. I did see something on one of the blog posts. The question was asked about these DeWalt planers, whether the sharpness of the blades affect the feed rate. And people were saying, well, no, it's actually your wheels, your feeder wheels that do that. You need to clean your feeder wheels. Well, that's true, but there is some truth to the other part as well, and that is the duller your blades on these planers, it's not going to cut as easily, and so the feeder wheels are not going to work as well. And so it's going to work a lot harder. And so when I changed, after I had planed that stack of lumber and that stack of lumber and started that third stack, you know, that's a lot of board feet, and I hadn't changed the blade. And by the time I got to the end of that and the beginning of this pile, I noticed that the blade, that the planer was running, you had to push quite hard to get the stuff to feed through. And so I took about 25 minutes and I changed the blade, switched them around, and started running boards through. My goodness, it was like night and day. So it wasn't the planer wheels itself, the feed wheels, it was actually the blades that needed to be replaced and changed, because that actually allowed less resistance against the wheels. So if you're having problems, even though the blades were actually doing a fairly decent job on my lumber, they were still giving a very, and I'm only running on the fast speed, so I run it on the 2, which is what, 96 cuts per inch. So I was going at the fast speed, and it was still giving me a nice finish, but what happened is I hadn't hit any nails or anything like that. It was just, they get wood dull, and so hitting knots and whatnot. And so it does help when you're starting to have to push on that to feed. You probably are going to need to change your blades. And so that's what I've learned this week with the DeWalt planer. And overall, I'm very satisfied with the job that it's doing. I realize this is just a little tabletop planer. It's not meant to be doing as much stuff that I'm doing with it, but I'm going to put her through the test, and I'll tell you at the end of this project, Lord willing, that I'll tell you about how it works out. But right now it's working well. It's given me a really great finish, and even though this is my outbuilding, stuff I'm doing for my outbuilding, I like to have things very neat and smooth to work with. There's nothing worse than working with unsized rough lumber. And so I'll bring you along with it when I get to that point. Just a quick update, my back is doing much better. I'm still taking it easy, trying not to do too much lifting. The stuff that I am lifting, most of the wood now is dry, so it's lost about third to half its weight of what it used to be, and so it makes things a lot easier. So I'm not going to be doing any milling anytime soon, that's for sure. But I always appreciate you joining me and watching the process, and it's a process. It's going to be months and years to get this project done, but we're going to work through it together, and I really appreciate you being with me. And if you would, like and subscribe. Until next time, you have a great day.